Welcome back to HMG Podcast. This is your host, Hashem M. Garrett. Thank you for joining me. For those who are new to my show, I am a dad, I am a son, I am a human being, right? And always need to start there, human first. Um, a licensed master social worker, author of a book called How to Fall Up 14 Lessons in Resilience in the Lives of Young People, and also been an educational consultant for over 2 decades. So, with the background out of the way, what is the topic for today? This is something I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. Been a little bit hesitant just because, truth hurts, right? And some people don't always want to hear the truth. But I hope that this comes across as constructive criticism and really an observation, right? So as I mentioned, I've been an educational consultant for over 20 years and got contracts and this is literally my bread and butter. This is what I do in and day out, right? Um, and so I get contracts to come into schools and I talk to students. And when I'm coming in, I usually have like two different packages that I offer. Either one, I'll just come in, do an assembly presentation, and this is for grades 5 through 12. And I've spoken in private schools and public schools, public schools in the inner city and rural areas, suburban. So this is crosses all socioeconomic backgrounds. And so the message changes a little bit, right? So the format is one, assemblies, or I'm coming in and rolling up the sleeves and talking to students in health classes and really sharing with them some things that they don't necessarily, kind of like filling in those gaps, things that they don't really learn about in their core subjects, or sometimes they don't learn about in health phys ed. So I'm not going to get into really what I talk about today, but I'm just going to share with you an observation, something that I've learned over the years. And here is the observation. One, I'm going to start by saying this. I have met some phenomenal principals, teachers, social workers, nurses, custodians, the security guards, met some really, really cool, humble, phenomenal, just servants, really just doing the work. And they, even though I just kind of listed off some of these titles, usually a lot of them wearing more hats than just that, right? But here's the observation, something that I've learned is that very often, although there are great teachers, I have met some really some teachers, some administrators, some principals, some social workers, some security guards that are not phenomenal, and they are the problem. I've met some parents who are like involved in a PTA, and I've met some parents that are just like loving their kids, and I've met some parents like, yeah, you are the problem. And so why I'm sharing this is because I know sometimes, we have society has a way of like looking at young people and saying, oh, this person isn't reading at their grade level, like they're proficient. They're not proficient in math, and they're not proficient in reading. And look at the kids and the violence and the physical outbursts, and they're beating up other kids, and school shootings and drug overdoses and teenage pregnancy and you name it, right? And sometimes teenagers really get like this bad rap of just like not viewed in this very positive light. And it's interesting because I've heard a lot of adults say when they get to high school, you could forget about it because they like set in stone, and they like it's almost like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And they're literally 14 and 15-year-olds. And it just seems like sometimes society just looks at high school as like throwaway, like up too late for them. What can we do? What are the interventions that we can apply for our middle schoolers and the K through 3? And like the research shows that by the time a kid is in the third grade, if they can't read, then they're gonna go right into the prison industrial complex and da 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 da. But the reality is, no, it's not true at all. Sometimes it's the adults that are really set in their ways, not the kids. And so really one of the things that I've observed is, yeah, do you have kids that have a lot of psychological issues and behavioral issues? For sure, right? Are they immature? They're teenagers and they're adolescents, and their brains and their bodies are still developing and growing. But one thing I've really, really observed in coming into classrooms for over 20 years is that it is that the kids are not the problem. It's not the teenagers. It's not the students. It's the parents. It's the parents who come up to the school and they want to fight. They want to fight the teachers and they want to fight the other kids, and they're outside and they're bringing other people, and they literally, and now the teacher, excuse me, now the parent is outside fighting other kids, and now kids are beating up the parents and the parents are beating up children. Like that's an issue. It's not the teenagers. It's not like, yeah, are the teenagers responsible? Sure, everybody's responsible, for the decisions that they make. But let's just be honest. Like, really, a lot of parents are messed up. Like, and I know, people have children doesn't make you a parent. Just because you have a child and you might feed them every day and you might, like take them to the doctor and blah blah blah. But that does not really make you a parent. And I'm just letting you know that very often parents are the problem. I've noticed that, and again, I've been doing this for a long time, is that you know how difficult it is to get parents to get involved when their kids are in high school. Yeah, K through 3 and K grades, K through 3rd grade and 5th grade, super involved. And in high school, something happens where parents just don't show up. And I'm here to tell you, like, as a parent of 2 teenagers, your kids want you to be involved. Do they want you to hover over and be like helicopter parents? No. But do they want you to be super involved, even if they act like they don't? Yeah. But from a place of real concern, right? And are they going to push back? Yeah. Are they going to be like, oh my gosh, you're in my business? Yeah. But do they deep down inside really want you to show up? Yes. And when they get to high school, it is not the response. It is not like now the responsibility of somebody else to just make sure that their grades are being turned in. Like, nah, you still have to be super present. Now they get off to college or trade school. All right, now they're 18. That's totally different, right? But you don't stop being a parent until you're no longer alive. You're always a parent. But do kids give you a run for their money? For sure. I know I did with my parents. Do they make it easy? No. Do they like close doors, literally and figuratively? Yeah. Do children abuse their parents physically? Yes. Do parents need support? Yes. Are parents scared? Yes. But there are a lot of people who have children that are not parents. And there are a lot of people who are raising their child, and they really are, by definition, a parent. And so this is part of this conversation is, if you are a parent and your child is physically or emotionally abusing you, like, get the help. But also at the same time, for those people who have children and, they say, I don't know, that's my child. You can't talk to my child any kind of way. I just want you to realize some people out here, when you bringing them back home, from they're coming back home from school, some of the people that they have to go back home to are the problem. And I'm going to also say this, not every child has a parent, because that's real. Some children are going to school and they do not have a parent at all. They are in foster care. And there are some people who are going home and, they're being raised by a grandparent. There are some people who are not going home because they are homeless, right? So I don't want to like paint this picture like every child has a parent, because the reality is every child does not have a parent. And some children are going home to parents who are physically abusing them and sexually abusing them and psychologically abusing them. Yeah. And so when we say, again, nah, the kids are not the problem. Society is a problem. Some of the homes that they have to go home to is a problem. If they have a home to go home to, which is another problem. All right, so I can speak ad nauseum about the home and how fractured that might be. But again, for the parents, before I segue to this next topic that I want to get to, for those who have children, you're a mom, you're a dad, you're a grandparent. If you need the help, engage with your school, engage with the principal, Engage with the social worker, the school psychologist, the school nurse. This is a team effort. And if you need help, you need resources, connect with the social workers so we can make sure we can provide you with the necessary resources that you need, whatever that might look like. And it's not going to happen overnight, but let's get the ball started. So that's one. The second part is the teachers. I have to say it again. Some of you are phenomenal. Many of you are. But then there are many in the field who should not be in the field, and I can't say that. I can't say it enough. And I know that there's there's a real teacher shortage. And hopefully in this shortage, we're weeding out the bad actors. I'm hoping that the ones who are staying are the ones who are really committed. And I hope the ones that are staying are really getting trained to be better teachers, because this is not an easy job. And I don't say this as if I am a teacher, but just in proximity of seeing the work that teachers have to do, the educators have to do day in and day out. This is not for the faint of heart. Should educators get paid more? For sure. Will that happen in our lifetime? I can't say. But it's not for the faint of heart. But some of the people who are educators should not be in the field, and you know who you are. And if you're not sure, if you have to ask yourself if that applies to you, then it probably does. All right. So those are the ones that are in the classroom. The other people that I have to talk about is the administrators. It's the principals. Yeah, some principals should not be administrators. That's a fact. You shouldn't, because you're not really present. And I'm only speaking from a space of knowing a lot of principals, right? And why I say some shouldn't is because what I've learned is that educators, ultimately who are becoming administrators, very often, right, they're sandwiched in between, where they have to deal with parent complaints, and they have to deal with teachers, and they have to deal with students. But sometimes I've seen administrators that seem to just they're just bending to the complaints of these one or two teachers. They're letting the fear of the parents, skew their judgment. I've seen certain administrators not like really buck back and say, no, this is my school, and this is the way I want to run it, and this is the way it's going to be. And they set the tone, right? I know a principal that many of you who are educators have heard of, Principal Kafele, and I was in his school when he was a principal years ago. And honestly, this is prior to him becoming like this awesome, national speaker. But I was in his school speaking to students, and I could tell you for sure that he had an extreme positive impact in his school. And I've known other principals, the Jose Aviles, who's now retired from the Newark Public Schools, and the Dr. Dr. Jose Aviles, excuse me, and Dr. Akil Bakard out here in New Jersey. And I've just met some really, really great administrators who they know how to set the tone for their building, where the kids respect them, right? And the staff shows them respect. And it's just like it's a phenomenal thing when you see how things start from the top down. It really starts from the top down. And too often, principals, when they do a great job, I've seen this in other districts, when principals do a great job, the superintendents are like, wow, you did such a great job turning that school around. What we want to do is we want to relocate you to another school. And you know how detrimental that is to the entire, to the school community when you have principals who are doing a great job. The teachers love them. The staff loves them. The parents love them. And then you have a superintendent like, all right, cool, you did a great job over there. We're going to take you out of there, that family, that community that you've built, and now we're going to switch you to this other one and make that happen over there. No, you can't do that. And that goes to the superintendents. But then there are just some principals who just like, nah, I'm just here for a minute, and then I'm moving on. And what that's like to go into a school, and I just want to ask, like, how long have you been here at this school? And they're like, nah, I was here for like 1 year. And what about when prior to you, how long was the other principal here? They were here for like 2 years. Like, there's not an opportunity for structure and community and the climate to change if every year or two you're swapping out a principal. Teachers don't know how are we going to run this, like, because everything is run from the top down. So I say all of that to say, everybody, we're all complicit. We're all playing a part in why the structure of schools are the way they are. Superintendents play a role, principals play a role, the teachers play a role, the students play a role, the parents play a role, everybody. So when there's no one solution to the problem, there isn't one solution. But I can say principles do matter. I can say that parents do matter. I can say that teachers who really care, boy, oh boy, on the front line every day in a classroom, dealing with all of those personalities and all of the trauma and the trauma, right? I can't stress it enough. And, the mental angst that these kids are dealing with and the teachers are dealing with. So again, if there are principals out there, continue to keep up the good fight. I had a great principal in my high school, Mr. Mickens out there in Boys and Girls High School way back in the days in Brooklyn. Principals really do make a difference, and I could go on and on about more principals who really roll up their sleeves and have made an impact in not only in the lives of the children but just the teachers. I just commend you, and I know it's not an easy task. So please, parents, play your role. Get the help that you need. Teachers, make sure you ask for the help. Principals, I know your neck seems like it's on the chopping block every day, because everybody's like, they all want you to solve all their problems, and I know it's not easy. So again, as an educational consultant, part of what my message has been when talking with students lately over the last 10, 15 years, it's really been about forgiveness, communication. So this message applies to adults. So I thank you guys for hearing my rant, hearing things that were on my mind. And, I think I'm only in a space that I could share this because there was a time, educational consulting was my bread and butter, and I didn't want to ruffle any feathers. The older you get, that's the one thing about getting older. I really don't care if I ruffle feathers. I really don't care if you bring me into a school. If you don't bring me into a school, I'm at a different space in my life, right? So I can be more transparent. I can be more honest, because you're like, oh, you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you. But the reality is, the teachers or the principals, they never really fed me. It's God who brought me into a school and introduced me, and things will work out where they're supposed to work out, right? And so this isn't to tear anybody down, but again, this is just constructive criticism. We need more parent engagement. We need more professional developments for teachers to help them to just, learn how to cope and learn how to deal with the stresses. And we need to make sure that those administrators feel supported so we can be the best versions of ourselves. All right. So sometimes we got to tear some things down to build them up in a real impactful, so that they'll be structurally sound. All right. So this comes from a place out of love. I'll close this episode like I always do, and it's just to remind you, you are special, and there's nobody in the world like you. Whatever is rare or unique has an enormous value, and it is the same with you. I thank you. Stay well. Signing off.